Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. Reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi, everybody. Today, I have a very special guest. I have my mother-in-law, Mrs. Diskin, or in Yiddish, I call her Schwieger. That's a Yiddish word, but she all the way from Munich, Germany. That is where my husband grew up. And I thought it would be cool to have a conversation with you because you've kind of seen me from the beginning, from before any sort of nurtured heart, personal transformation, personal work. Like you saw me through all of it. And in the context of family, you've been the grandma all along, watching my kids grow up and watching me with my kids and me and my marriage, just everything, the whole thing. So I thought it would be really cool. And we didn't rehearse this and we didn't talk about like what you're going to share. So I have no idea what's going to come out of your mouth. Hopefully I won't be embarrassed or upset about asking you to come on, but I trust that I won't. But I thought it would be really cool to kind of get your perspective on my journey has looked like for you and if and how it's impacted you in any way. So I guess in the lens of Nurtured Heart Approach and what you've learned about Nurtured Heart Approach, I have to say my mother-in-law has been so supportive of me from day one. And she's taken my courses and I learned so much from you guys. I learned so much from your even just financial abundance, like the way you guys are like, of course I'm going to pay you. You're my family. Like I would never, who would I want to pay better? Like, oh, that's such a nice way of living. I want to be like that. And I am like that now and I'm proud of it. But you've been, you've taken the class and everything. What would you say is the thing you appreciate the most about what you've seen Nurtured Heart do for our family?
Okay, there's a lot of things that I've seen. I'll start with, I think, what talks to me the most and what I try to incorporate as much as possible in my teaching is the authenticity of it. It's just being very, very real with your expectations, real with where you are at right now and not trying to be something you're not and having that energy come across to the children. Being real about your expectations, about your goals, about your rules and following through with it. And also very real about the praises that come through and strengthening the children and their, with validating the children in a very, very real way. And the trust that you really give to the children, that you trust they know what's best for them. It's beautiful to see it really show up, when I'm with your children and I tell it to like my sisters, my parents. It's just beautiful to be with every single one of them and how different they all are. One is a natural rule keeper, one is a natural rebel, and they all really thrive with knowing what's expected of them. And they, when they're in their good space and when they're really ready for it, they want to show up in the best way possible and they feel good about it because they know that they're doing the right thing and it's their choice and it's not being thrust down their throats. They're very aware of consequences. When they're not in their best behavior, they know exactly, if there's going to be a consequence, why it's a consequence. And it's really, really beautiful and humbling to watch. And I wish my grandchildren would grow up this way. I just think it's extremely healthy, wholesome, beautiful.
That is so beautiful. I want to cry. And I love that. The first thing you said was authentic and how you said all of that, because from the outside, like I think when you're just like watching a 1-minute reel about Nurtured Heart or like looking at the book or even around the training or around, Nurtured Heart externally, I think a lot of people, it can rub you wrong in the beginning. It can feel very inauthentic, like all these words, and you're just trying to like kind of like toxic positivity. You're just trying to like make people feel good, and like it's sort of like showing up to negativity with positivity to like pretend it's not negative, and just it's like pretending, like forcing, manipulative. I don't know, a lot of yucky energy around that, and I know what it's capable of and I strive for that all the time. And that's what I'm here in the world to like try and share is like, it's not that. I'm not trying to, whitewash everything and make the world rainbows and unicorns. It's not at all about that. It's actually not a positive approach. It's actually a very truthful approach. It's truth. That's what it is. Always being in the truth of the moment. for good, for bad, for great, for everything in between. And it's honest. And I'm so humbled and honored and excited that that comes through. Yeah, thank God.
Very
Yeah.
much so. I have to say, at the beginning, when I heard all these words and I was listening to the classes, so I definitely had my skepticism, thinking, is this really possible to implement? And do the children do well with only hearing always positive, positive, positive? It does say in the Torah, "Lo signive," and that there is, a lav of this or this you're not allowed to do. And until I actually saw you practice it, I didn't really feel there was that much of it until I really saw you, with the strong stance and with very clear rules. So definitely the kids do know their borders. They know what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, the rules. And so there's a very much of that. And I think another thing that I came to realize is that generally parenting is self-education. That's really what it is all about. And when we have to be clear with our children, it actually makes us stop for a minute and think we should be clear with ourselves. What is it that I really want from my children right now? Or what is it that I need from them right now? Or where am I at? And that's why I'm, reacting differently or whatever it is. So it really makes us all think and pause a minute. Okay, what's really happening? Let's be real about this whole thing. But I think you have to really practice it, even if you don't believe in it right away, or if it seems too fake for the beginning with all these fancy words. But I think when you actually see it in action, even if it's not always 100%, the times that it does work, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I think in the beginning it is unnatural. You're learning a new language. It's like going to a new country and breaking your teeth with the new language and the new accent, and you sound horrible. And you do sound horrible, and you make grammar mistakes and things. I mean, you have all your funny stories of you guys learning German when you first moved to Germany, and the funny mistakes you guys made. And that's nurtured heart as a new language. We're not wired to speak in this way where the focus is always on what's going right. And there's a lot of good reasons for that, of why we're not trained for that. So it's really learning a new language, learning new words we're not used to saying, and it sounds weird in the beginning. And like any language, it can become natural, and it does when you practice enough, to the point that I love this so much, is that I've been told by people that it doesn't sound like it sounds so, it sounds like some people do nurtured heart, but like I don't do nurtured heart. It's just natural.
Nurture heart.
And I'm so grateful for that, because it started off literally taking a word out of the greatness list. Like I remember when I started implementing resourceful, and when I started implementing flexible, and when I started implementing responsible, like the first thing was self-control. That's all I used all day long. That was the only words I used. And then it was like, no, we want to expand the vocabulary here. It was taking a word and intentionally using it all the time for a week till it was coming out of my kids' ears. And it happened because my kids were reflecting self-control only everywhere. And I was like, oh, the only word we know is self-control. Okay, we got to do some more. And it was a natural, and it was all very like, I have to say it in this way and in this order. But there's no way to learn unless you learn. There's nowhere to start unless you start. And I love that you're able to see and reflect on where we're at now, to see that there is a point where it's natural and beautiful. And I love what you said about being in the space where we are. Like, I'm curious how, like, if you have any examples of how you saw that. I know I live that way, but I'm curious if you have any examples of how you saw that. Like, it's about being honest about where we're at, and not, or how you see that or kind of comparing what that wouldn't look like.
I don't know if I have even one example. I think it's just the way the whole, house is run. There's a lot of structure, although the kids are not, living in a box and always looking at a clock of what has to happen. But it's very clear, like the time that they need to do something, that they need to have their jobs before Shabbos. It's very natural, before Shabbos, each one has to have a job, and then whatever, they can have screen time. Or Sunday morning, they know at a certain time, this is what we could do. This is a certain amount of time we're allowed to do it. Somebody wants to play a game, they have to ask the other person if they want to play, if they're willing to lose, etc., etc. All these things seem minor, but it really diffuses so many awkward situations that could come up without that clarity. And it's like these little things that just make, I think, the major change. That it's just a very, very, it's wonderful to watch.
And it's cool because, like, in reflecting on nurture heart, whenever I'm teaching it or discussing it with other people, it's always fascinating how all three stands seem the most important when you're focusing on them. Like, obviously, the one that sticks out the most to most people is the positive one, stand 2. We have to build inner wealth, right, and we have to see people's greatness. True, but that will not work, especially with the intense kids who this approach is really built for, if you're giving energy to negativity. So then stand one becomes the most important one, because if they're getting, they know that people think they're troublemakers, and they know that people light up and give the gift of them around negativity. So they're like, you don't always see my greatness, but you always see my trouble. So then stand one becomes like, you can't have stand two without stand one. But then without clarity, like you're saying, this is what you're focusing on right now. Stand three sounds like the most important one. How could I show up for what's going right if it's not set up to go right? There's so much. I was reflecting yesterday how when I don't have clarity in myself of like what I need to do. I mean, you see my little baby's head right here. I'm a few weeks postpartum right now. And like, should I shower? Should I sleep? Should I eat? Or should I pump? Like when I get into that moment where it's like, there's 5 things I want to do and I can't choose which one, I'm exhausted. I end up napping or just falling apart because it's too many choices. It's not clear. But when I have clarity and I know like the baby's up, so I have no choice. There's no nap. There's no shower. Right now, I'm taking care of the baby. I'm actually more alive and okay because that's all I can do right now. Clarity is so helpful to being able to be successful and then being able to show up for what's going right and have that relationship that's you cut out so many things that you now don't have to deal with so that you can actually be with the people that you want to be with and hang out with them, and just not even like greatness recognition, which is a huge way of building inner wealth, but just living and existing in relationship, hanging out together, being together, loving each other.
Right. And more than that, I think children really want boundaries. They want to know what are their perimeters, what are they allowed to do, what are they not allowed to do, and they want to test them also. So that's part of being a child, and that's actually part of the human nature. If we wouldn't have been testing our boundaries, we would have never gotten to space, we would have never found, airplanes. So it's actually the way we were created, to test our boundaries. So if we recognize that that's also a healthy part of children, a healthy part of adults is testing boundaries, also knowing the boundaries, so that once they have clear boundaries, they're free to actually act within those boundaries, and they know they're doing the right thing, and it's okay. And that's why the clarity is, I think, probably the most important part of the nurtured heart. And I think that it should be so natural and clear that that's what we adults are supposed to provide for our children or the people in our care, because it doesn't have to be even children. It could be, anybody in any relationship. The clearer we are about employee, spouse, the clearer we are about our expectations, our needs, our wants, the easier it is for somebody else to show up for us in the right way and do the best they can be, because they want to do the best they could be. They need to know how.
Totally. So many things popped up in my head, and now I'm going to go backwards because the one I thought of last is still there, and the other ones have floated away. But I just 2 days ago, I think it was, I kind of thought that my husband was going to do bedtime, and then he thought I was going to do bedtime, and then I didn't pause and take that moment to like get clear. I just kind of like did it. Like I just went to do bedtime, but I really wasn't up for it. And then I was like resentful and overwhelmed because I had the baby with me and really it was too much. And then I was like, wait a second, like I could have just said it. Like I didn't say it, And then so the next day I was like, I don't remember how it doesn't matter how I said it. The point was, I communicated to him that we were expecting him to do bedtime with the baby while I'm with the baby. And the clarity for myself too, that like I can do bedtime if I'm not with the baby. If I'm with the baby, I can't do bedtime. It's too much, like one or the other. Obviously I'll first go through it if I'm alone, but if I'm not alone, like that's my clarity. That's what works for me. Communicate it. But if I don't communicate it, and my husband is happily running to do bedtime, it's just that I hadn't communicated it. So how's he supposed to know, So that clarity is so helpful. Well, this was the example that came up to me. It struck me about the kids testing the boundaries that you said. That clarity helps the test actually be way more effective, that they test it and then learn. I was thinking of like when you have to go to the doctor and diagnose something, if you know exactly where the pain is, it's like the pain is right here in my jaw, right? So go to the dentist or whatever, like it's very clear where it's coming from, what the pain is like. But when there's like numerous symptoms and it's not really clear where the pain is coming from, they have to run like all these tests and they have to try all these things. And sometimes they even like have to try medications without knowing what the diagnosis is, just to see if the medication works. Then the diagnosis was correct, but you don't even know, because there's a lack of clarity of what we're looking at. When kids have clarity that like that's the boundary right here, then they walk up to it, they press against it, and when it presses back, they go, yep, that's a boundary and that actually exists. Okay, got it. Next, I'm safe till here. Now I know that you mean business. I know I can trust you. But when they're not really sure where the line is, they're not really sure where to test. So they have to test all kinds of things. And even when they test it, they're not sure, did it work because of this medication or did it work because it was actually a completely different diagnosis? And you have to like, you know, those diets where you're trying to figure out an allergy and you have to not eat anything so that you can try one thing because otherwise you're not sure. Was it the milk or was it the cheese or was it the I don't know, the peanuts, you know? It's like there's no clarity, so you have to be so extreme with your exploration. When kids know where the boundary is, okay, I tested it. It stood the test. Great, move on. And another thing, my neighbor just told me that when my daughter was over at her house playing with her daughter and one of the kids broke a rule or something, my daughter said, he needs to reset. And she thought that was really cute. My daughter's 3. But yeah, my daughter can do nurtured heart very well. My daughter was watching us, me on a Zoom with other people. I was explaining to her how it works. People take turns, whatever. She was trying to understand. And she said, they're so patient. And that was like her natural, you know, the natural way she narrated the situation. Yeah, anyway.
What struck me is when I was just, you know, at your house when your baby was born. And obviously, you know, your 3-year-old wanted to be with you as much as possible. And you made a very clear rule about when she's allowed to come to your bedroom and when not. And she tested you. And she learned, you know, she wasn't happy with the results. And before, you know, Nurture Heart, and probably every normal mother would have like guilty feelings. Oh my God, she's 3 and she's feeling so bad. She has a new baby. And what am I doing to her? I'm traumatizing her. I'm not ready to see her or whatever it is. And it's so not like that. She knew exactly what to expect. And she knew exactly the rejections, so to speak. I'm saying in
regular words, quotations.
Whatever. In quotations, thank you. The rejection, you know, she was upset. She came out. She was, you know, a little bit hurt, but when she was allowed to come in, she appreciated, I think, so much more, and she really learned that boundary.
I'll share the story because why not? It's a great example, and then we'll close with that because
Okay.
this is such a great conversation. I'm so glad with the way it went. Yeah, no, it was a great. I told her that when she walks in the room, she can walk in the room quietly and she can look at me. And if I look at her and I say, hi, Shayna, or I say hello, or I say, hey, or whatever, I gave her a bunch of examples of what I might say, then she knows that she could talk to me and she can ask me if she can come on my bed. But if she comes in the room and I don't say hi and I don't look at her and I don't engage, then she's not allowed to talk to me and she has to go out. And so she came in the room. This was the test, right? The testing moment. She came in the room. I actually was up. I wasn't sleeping, but I was not ready for her. Anyone who's postpartum knows that being up does not mean you're ready for interactions. And she came in my bed. I just was using my stands. I was resetting myself and knowing this is a test. And I did not look at her. I said reset right away when she came into my bed. I said reset. And then I just focused on the baby and focused on whatever. I trust that whatever needs to be learned here will be learned here. I don't know what needs to be learned here. Like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know the thing about Nurtured Heart is it's given me clarity on my role in every moment. I don't know the outcome. I mean, thank God we can see. I have a 12-year-old now. I have an 11-year-old. We can see results so far and how great they are. But I didn't always know that. I just trusted in this like essence that stood out to me, that I felt connected with and drawn to, and I knew I wanted it. So I was like, I'm doing this no matter what, like blind faith, you know? But I knew that my role in this moment was to stay clear with my clarity. So I'm not going to engage in the rule break by giving her the gift of me. Like, I'm not going to go where the rule is being broken, and the rule is being broken by her getting on my bed. So I'm not going to talk about her getting on my bed. I'm not going to talk about how she has to get off my bed. I'm not going to give her she wants me. So if I start talking to her, even if I'm threatening and yelling, she's getting me. She's the most important person in the room right now. She won me when I was so unavailable, and I am so unavailable postpartum. She got me to be available by breaking a rule. And that's a backwards message. So I'm not available for breaking a rule. I'm available when I said I was. When I look at you and I say hi. And that is sad. You're right. Eventually she gets off the bed. I think she threw some pillows, whatever. She did her thing. And then she gets off the bed and she's muttering to herself as she's leaving the room. Not to me, to herself. I am not her best friend anymore, and I am not her best Shayna, and I am very angry. I am very mad. And I think she said something to you too when she came out
She came out very, very sulkily, and she said, I'm really, really mad at mommy.
Yes. And she didn't want to talk to me after, right? She didn't want to hug me.
She didn't want to tell you good night.
Yes. But I will say, But then after that, right, for the most part, she was done testing. She tested a few more times, but never like that. Never as extreme as that. And I also by accident responded to her. So then I had to reset myself. I had to be like, Oops, Shayna, I spoke to you. I wasn't supposed to speak to you. I didn't say hi, Shayna. Could we try that again? Can you go out and come back in again and we'll try that again? I have to be as clear with the rules as with myself as I am with her. Anyway, my point is that now the part that you're not here for is that she keeps saying these sweet things like, Mommy, I'm so happy that the doctor said that now you're allowed to be all around the house. Mommy, I'm so happy you're not in your bed. Mommy, remember when the doctor said you could only walk around in your room, but now your tummy feels better and you can be here and I'm so happy. She keeps saying these sweet, sweet things. It's like it was not personalized, it was not rejection, it was the reality, a hard reality. Mommy's has a
Right.
boo-boo in her tummy that she needs to
She
heal.
had a hard time, and it's normal for
And
her to
that's
have a
it.
hard
And
time.
now it's over. And what I said would happen because I said a few weeks like this and then a few weeks like that and then a few, like this is what's gonna happen. And it did, it played out. And so she okay, it was hard, but I can do, and we could do hard things, but we have to know what those it helps so much when we know what those hard things are and we know that there's this too shall pass. And then when it all plays out, we're like, oh, look at that. That wasn't so bad. Your first cavity.
I'm guilty about it,
Yeah,
to embrace it.
for them, yeah, for me. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can go on and on and on, but we're going to pause here so that we keep to our 20
My
minute rule.
pleasure. Best of luck to you and to everybody listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your courage in coming on here without a plan and just going along with it. I really, really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.